I have a passion for textiles that was lying dormant, and it's finally come full circle. I just grew up with textiles all around me as a young child, and we did a lot of stitching and sewing and piecing together, and dyeing too. My BFA, MFA degrees are in graphic design, which included illustration, advertising, printing, photography, and the traditional arts as well of calligraphy and miniature painting. Then I came to New York and I went to Pratt and did industrial design, which was a totally different discipline, being more three-dimensional and working with industry and knowing all the materials and methods and so on. I went back to Pakistan and had a hard time convincing people that I could do what I said I could do. Then we had an arranged marriage. I got married and Tariq was working in Connecticut at the time, so came over. A little later we moved to Rhode Island. In '79 he had an offer from Brown and we've had this house ever since. I was born in a small town called Aligarh in the India side of the division, but most of my growing up was in Lahore, Pakistan. I think lots of time I'm asked the question about living and working in Rhode Island, and I find so many similarities because Lahore is a very tolerant city and very accepting of newcomers, and Rhode Island was born on the principles of tolerance and freedom, and I find that parallel very compelling. So, I feel totally at home here in that sense. But I think more than anything, it's the people. For the last 6-7 years, I've been working with textiles alone. The other day somebody said to me, what you do is very traditional, yet it does look modern. And I said, I hope so, because that's my aim. I don't want to just keep reproducing shiboris and batiks that look like things that were done 200 years ago. I just want them to look very different. First got inspired to do three-dimensional pieces because I was doing one of the traditional techniques in shibori whereby you can tie something into the fabric, and when you boil the fabric it takes on this shape. And traditionally they used marbles. In Pakistan and India they will use a little pebble or even a grain of rice to create the very small dots that we call bandhani. And I kept doing larger and larger forms. I kept finding these wooden spheres in craft stores. I said, if I can do a sphere, why can I not do other things? So the next transition was picking up a small mustard jar and doing that, and it came out. I have taken it a step further, and I really think it's a perfect blend of my industrial design and my graphic design training. I've evolved a way of forming the fabric so that I get these freestanding three-dimensional forms. First of all, I've been using transparent fabrics, and I think transparency just fascinates me. Well, a Rhode Island artist had seen my work at the Providence Art Club, and she said to me, yes, but bottles, yes, you're making bottles, so what, they're bottles. And I thought about it, and I think that's the best challenge she could have given me. And that's just about the time the Art League had a call for its members to do a show called Comfort Zone, step out of your comfort zone kind of thing. And that was my cue. I did step out and I picked up stones from my backyard and I made my first rock, and it worked. That was, the great moment. Stones say so much more. Bottles did not express as many ideas and thoughts as the stones have, because I've been dealing with the themes of boundaries and borders and restrictions and freedoms, and I think stones are a great metaphor for that. Stones have been described as bones of the earth, and I think of them as witnesses to evolution, evolution of our earth itself. Because, when the earth cooled and became earth, stones were formed. I mean, it's endless. You can keep thinking about what stones do. I get goosebumps thinking about them. They're just so beautiful, and the subtle coloring And when they're wet, they shine and they reflect the yellow leaves around them or whatever else is around them. It's not as if it was today that I stepped out and I said, oh my God, these stones are beautiful. I've been doing that for years and years. We talk about cloth having a memory, and what happens is when you bind fibers, squeeze them or stretch them and then heat them, they take on that shape. It's almost sort of an elastic thing. And both natural as well as synthetic fibers seem to be doing that so far, because my polyester pieces are in fact, they're even better than my silk pieces. They hold the shape so much better. I got a wonderful new word from Christoph Matthews. He used the word transubstantiation. So I looked it up. He was describing my work, introducing my work. And it basically was a word used in the Christian religion where the wine and the bread are, are the blood and the body of Christ. And I thought it was a wonderful word, a word for me to use or to describe my work, because here I take this very soft, very light, transparent material, and I make these stone shapes out of them, and stones are dense and heavy and solid. Once I take the stone out, I will normally have a perfectly formed shape duplicating the actual shape of the stone. I can put the actual stone and my work together, and the eye can really get confused. The surface pattern might differ a little bit, but the shape is just so exact. Most people think that I just stiffen it up by starch or some other material, but that's not so. It's the process of burning the memory of the shape of the stone onto the fibers of the fabric. You get started, and once you start, you cannot stop. It's a process that just drives itself, and the more you drive, the faster it goes. I always think it's memory, observation, experience, and the place where all these things happen is what really leads you one way or another into your creative process. So it's a lot of trial and error, and whoever decides to take this up later on will have the benefit of all the experimentation that I have been doing. And I think that's a great thing, because somebody has to do something and then people build on that. That's how civilizations happen. That's how we all learn.